Prime Minister Scott Morrison has issued a sign of hope for Australia's tourism industry, pointing towards a reopening of international borders before Easter. Joining us live now is James Goodwin, the CEO of the Australian Airports Association. James, appreciate your time. Are you as optimistic as the Prime Minister that we'll see that all happen sometime before April?
We're certainly optimistic, and this is a good signal. Really, the only way that the aviation and the tourism sectors and the broader Australian economy is going to recover is when the international borders are open to tourists. We know that even domestic travel within Australia, 30% of domestic travel are international tourists. So it's important that we do open up. And when we do open up, it's important that those internal borders are open, because we know that international tourists really want to see Australia. They want to go to Sydney, they want to go to Melbourne, they want to see Uluru, they want to go to the Great Barrier Reef. So it's important that those internal borders stay open as well.
Yeah, we've learnt today that New Zealand is putting off its reopening until the middle of the year, so Australians will have to wait a bit longer to get over the ditch. What is the state of play at the nation's airports at the moment, James? Has the reduced isolation requirements for airport workers in most places, has that made things be able to run a little smoother in recent weeks?
Well, I'd be hoping that in February 2022, we would have been hoping and talking about recovery. But at the moment, domestic passenger numbers are only at about 50% of pre-COVID levels. International arrivals are only at around 15% of pre-COVID levels. So look, recovery is going to be a long time. It's going to take a long journey to get us back to those pre-COVID levels. But what we see is that Omicron has really just decimated the consumer confidence to be able to travel. We know that people are just hesitant to get on that aircraft because if they get the virus, if they need to isolate, they might be isolating in a state that they don't live. They may have to isolate at home. They may miss out on work and on pay while they're in isolation. So what we're really seeing is a lack of confidence. So the aviation sector is ready, willing and able to facilitate people travelling again, but it's that lack of confidence that travellers have that they might get stuck on the wrong side of the border and need to isolate. So we really have a lot of work to do to make sure that people regain that confidence to be able to reconnect with their family and friends, take that holiday if they're able to do so. So we're really urging the Commonwealth and the states to work together to make sure that we've got that confidence, because it's really the only way that the Australian economy will be able to get back on its feet.
And some airports are doing it tougher than others, aren't they? I saw Perth Airport has just announced the temporary closure of one of its terminals. They're pointing out that just 4,000 passengers went through that terminal over the past month compared to 50,000 people who would go through that one terminal in the same period pre-pandemic. I mean, an airport like Perth stuck behind a border must just be bleeding money at the moment.
They are. Through the pandemic, airports collectively have been losing more than $300 million a month in revenue. But what they've been doing is doing the right thing for the community. They know that they are essential services. We see the situation in Perth that they are closing terminals to try and save money. And that is because there are just fewer and fewer flights turning up at Perth or leaving Perth. But what they're doing is making sure that they're doing the right thing. So the FIFO workforce can get in and out, and also that freight can get in and out. So that's important that they stay open for that. But they're really doing that without any direct government support to stay open and to maintain that sovereign air network. So that's important that people understand that it will take some time to recover. But the important thing is we can still get freight around the country. We know that the rapid antigen tests, for instance, are in boxes that are largely being air freighted around the country. So it's important that airports, despite the low passenger numbers, despite the lower revenue, are still staying open to allow that to occur. So they do understand that they're part of the community. So it's sad to see that airports having to close terminals in order to save money, but making sure that we can stay connected is the important thing for the country.